Hi everyone, this is lecture 3 of topic 6. We are continuing with the muscular system. In this slide, we are going to learn about the two types of muscle contraction. The first one is isotonic contraction and the next one is isometric contraction. In isotonic contraction, force is generated by changing the muscle length, while in the isometric contraction, force is generated without changing the muscle length. So in isotonic, the muscle either shortens, which is concentric, or lengthens, which is eccentric, and movement occurs. For example, when you are bending the knee. In isometric contractions, the muscle is unable to shorten or produce movement. For example, you push against a wall with bent elbows. This figure shows isotonic and isometric types of muscular contractions. Muscle tone is generated by different muscular fibers contracting at different times. I think we all know the effects of exercise on muscles. Exercise increases the muscle mass as well as endurance. There are two types of exercise: aerobic, which builds endurance, and resistance, that increases muscle mass. Some examples of aerobic exercises are biking, jogging, etc. While isometric or resistance exercise is weightlifting, that increases your muscle size and strength. This is a list of 5 golden rules of skeletal muscle contraction. The important one from here is that all skeletal muscles have at least 2 attachments. There is the origin and the insertion. And when a muscle contracts, the insertion moves towards the origin. Body movements are caused by a muscle moving an attached bone. Muscles have 2 points of attachments. The first one is origin, which is stationary. It is either immovable or slightly movable. The other point of attachment is the insertion, which is movable. And usually during contraction, the insertion moves towards the origin. The origin is proximal to the insertion. Here is an example of origin and insertion from forearm flexion at the elbow. So the origin is the attachment of brachialis muscle to the anterior surface of the humerus bone, while insertion is the attachment of the brachialis to the coronoid process of ulna. Types of body movements. Body movements occur in sets of 2 opposite movements. For example, flexion versus extension. Flexion is a movement that decreases the angle of a joint, bringing 2 bones closer together, while extension is opposite of flexion, which increases the angle between 2 bones. When the extension is beyond 180 degree, it is known as hyperextension. This slide shows you different examples of flexion, extension, and hyperextension. Rotation is movement of a bone around its longitudinal axis. For example, when you shake your head no, you move the atlas around the dens of the axis. Abduction versus adduction. Abduction means movement of a limb away from the midline, while adduction is opposite, that means movement of the limb towards the midline. You can remember abduction as somebody taking something away. Circumduction is a combination of flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction. For example, when you rotate your upper limb at the shoulder joint, this is very common in ball and socket joints. Dorsiflexion versus plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion means walking on the heels, while plantar flexion is standing on toes like a ballerina. Inversion versus eversion. Inversion means turning the sole of the foot medially, while eversion is turning the sole laterally. Pronation versus supination. In supination, the radius and ulna are parallel. The forearm rotates laterally, so the palm faces anteriorly. In pronation, the radius and ulna cross each other like an X. So the forearm rotates medially and the palm faces posteriorly. This figure shows how in supination the radius and ulna are parallel, while in pronation the radius rotates over the ulna. Opposition versus reposition. Opposition means movement of the thumb and other fingers on the same hand towards each other, while reposition means return to anatomical position. Classification of skeletal muscles based on their action. The first type of muscles are known as the prime movers. These are the muscles with the major responsibility for a particular type of movement. For example, when you are doing a forearm flexion, it is the biceps brachii that is the prime mover. So this is the main protagonist of the muscular contraction. The second type of muscle is the antagonist. This is the villain or the one that is opposing the action of the prime mover. For example, in the forearm flexion, the triceps brachii, they extend the forearm. So they are opposing the action of the biceps brachii. The third type of muscle is the synergist muscle. This is the muscle that is helping the prime mover in its action. So for example, in the bicep curl, the synergist muscles are the brachioradialis and the brachialis. This figure shows the location of the muscles that we just discussed in the previous slide. The last category of skeletal muscles is the fixator muscle, which stabilizes or fixes the origin of the prime mover. For example, in a bicep curl, the fixator muscles are a group of muscles known as the rotator cuff muscles, and these muscles connect the humerus to the scapula. The rotator cuff muscles include the teres minor, the subscapularis, supraspinatus, and infraspinatus. Muscles are named in a wide variety of ways. For example, by the direction of or the orientation of the muscle fibers, that would be a rectus. By the size of the muscle, for example, maximus or medius. By location of the muscle, for example, temporalis, that means it's close to the temporal bone. By the number of origins, for example, triceps with 3 heads. By location of the muscle's origin or insertion, for example, sterno, that means on the sternum. By the shape of the muscle, for example, deltoid, which is a triangular muscle. By the action of the muscle, for example, flexor or extensor, that means it's flexing or extending a bone. This slide shows the different types of muscles as per their names.